Welcome to Beyond the Scale, the show where everyday heroes share their stories on how they turn their lives around for the healthier. I'm Coach Brittany, and today's guest is Jason Phillips. He'll be talking about how he overcame anorexia and how you can use food to feel your best. Hope you enjoy. Welcome, Jason Phillips.
What's going on? How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I can't complain. Can't complain. Anytime you're in Southern California, hanging out with you beautiful people, life is good.
Yeah, well, thank you. Love that sunshine, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm really excited to have you on the show today. I know you are shaking up the world when it comes to nutrition. So I definitely want to learn from you, get some tips, and see, how you got to where you are.
That's my pleasure. Let's see what we can do.
All right. So first, why don't you start off by explaining what you currently do?
Yeah, so I am a nutrition coach, and I use that word really carefully. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. I really believe the word coach has a lot to do with kind of how we operate in my company and in our education platform. And so with that, I don't really think that the problem with people and their weight loss journey or whatever journey they're on really has to do with the food itself. I believe that there's some sort of them kind of implementing nutritional protocols is really the problem. So whether it's their lifestyle, whether it's choosing the wrong foods, whether it's trying a fad diet, whatever it might be, it's just not adding up for them. It's not creating the success that they want. And my job as the coach is to figure out, okay, why can't you implement? What's holding you back? What things do you need in your diet that you don't currently have? And that's ultimately how we've been able to create success.
I love that. Now, before we dive more into that stuff, I want to take a few steps back and learn about where you came from. So what was life like growing up for you? When did you first find out that you were interested in fitness?
Yeah, so I avoided all things fitness pretty much until the age of 18. I didn't lift weights because I thought they were too heavy. And I was probably the laziest teenager known to man. But I was really good at one sport, and we'll use that loosely. I was a golfer.
Okay.
I was nationally ranked at the age of 18. And actually an injury in golf, of all things, led me into the rehab setting. And I had torn my labrum in my shoulder. I was in the rehab setting, and I actually started enjoying things in the gym. Unfortunately, I enjoyed them too much, and it manifested itself in sending me into an eating disorder. So, I got approached for some modeling gigs. I realized that, hey, chicken tenders and mac and cheese, that's not really the way to a good body, even if you're working out. And unfortunately, all the information and the media and everything back then, it was don't eat this, don't eat that. And I actually developed clinical anorexia.
Wow.
I was 2 days away from an intervention between my parents and my pediatrician. And so, this is back 2002. Obviously, very fortunately overcame that and decided at that minute, I had overcome something so major in my life, and it was something that was going to help me pay it forward to others. I changed my major in college, went to Florida State University, got my degree in exercise science with a concentration in fitness nutrition, and declared that day I'm going to pay it forward to every single person I meet. I know that food and proper nutritional implementation can be the vehicle to success no matter what you're looking for. Ever since then, right, 2003, I have been paying it forward every single day. And so here we are 15 years later, and that's what I do full time.
Now, I love that you mentioned that you were anorexic. I mean, a lot of people don't hear that from men.
Right.
So for you to be open and honest about that story, I think that's going to help so many people out there,
For
not
sure.
only men, but women too.
Yeah. I would say, to be fair, like you said, not a lot of men are talking about it.
Right.
And I think it's that not a lot of men are talking about it. I think that it is relatively prevalent. And I think that men have more body image disorders than they like to talk about. It's just not alpha. It's not macho to talk about your body image. But the truth is, we all have issues, whether they're body image, whether they're self-doubt, whether, whatever it is. Nutritional implementation, success with nutrition, success giving you the energy, giving you the ability to like the way that you look, all of those things, that is going to pay itself forward positively. And I think that we just have to be in a position where we can recognize those things, be okay with them, and then implement to create the success.
Now, how did you start getting out of being anorexic?
I was really lucky. So when you're anorexic, a lot of things happen. There's a cascade of really gnarly events. One of them for me was my hormone levels tanked. One of the side effects of not having testosterone as a male is you have no energy. So I was getting to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I needed to sleep. And I don't say that jokingly, I literally, wherever I was at 2 o'clock, it was I need to find the nearest chair and I need to sleep. So try to picture you're 18 years old, you need a part-time job to have some money, and you can't stay awake after 2 p.m. Doesn't work out real well. So the job I found that allowed me to continue being anorexic was opening Gold's Gym from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. So it was great. I was a morning person. I had enough energy to get to 11. And so I actually was holding a job for the first time in some time. And one of the trainers there, she noticed what I was doing to myself. She's like, man, you never eat, you're training all the time. This is bad. And so there's this bodybuilder that would come into the gym and he was getting ready for a competition. So he's got a lot of muscle. He's really lean. And I'm like, that's what I want to look like. And I told her that one day. And she was like, oh, well, I do his diet and I do his training. And I was like, well, shit, then you should do mine. Can you do my diet? Can you do my training? And she was like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And for whatever reason, knowing what I know about nutrition, this was awful advice. But she was like, you need to go home and you need to eat 4,000 calories. And I put, right, this is like me eating like 800 calories a day at this point.
Yeah.
I put blind faith into her. And I'm like, sure, I'm gonna go home and do it. Mind you, this is 2002, before like MyFitnessPal and all that stuff was popular. So I went to Barnes & Noble. I got like a actual physical calorie counting book and wrote myself a 4,000 calorie meal plan that night. And I stuck to it every day for like 3 weeks. And I remember looking in the mirror 3 weeks later and I'm like, I'm not fat. Like, this is weird. Like, I fully expected to be fat at that point. And I'm like, oh, it's a bodybuilding thing. You'll just get really bloated in the off season.
Right.
I was like, no, like, I'm not fat. Like, this whole food thing, it's not so scary. And so that was really like the big step out of it. And then there were other steps, like learning to trust certain foods and, but to be completely transparent, here we are, 33 years old. I don't think that the thoughts ever totally leave you. Anorexia, it's anorexia nervosa, right? It's a nervous system disorder. And I believe that your brain is wired a certain way. I don't think you completely overcome those thoughts. I think that you just learn to channel them more positively. And for me, the empathy that I now have for my clients, understanding their relationships to food, is me channeling it positively and paying it forward.
Yeah, I'm sure you can totally connect with your clients and be able to help them through mentally, physically, with everything.
Well, I think so much of transformation is mental, right? I believe that getting to the gym is not that difficult, yet you can sit at home and you can make 100 excuses to why you shouldn't go. Being in the gym, pushing yourself to another level, not physically that hard, but mentally you can come up with a million excuses to why you should stop this set. Understanding that pizza is less healthy than, a nutrient-dense meal like salmon and broccoli is not that difficult. Yet we have a very big difficulty creating the proper implementation. We choose the pizza too often, or in my case, we choose In-N-Out Burger. So, it's one of those things where what I need to understand is, why are you making the choices you're making? How can we now get you to make better choices and actually desire to make better choices? Because simply making the choice, well, that's easy, but I need you to want to make the better choice.
Right.
So what is it that's going to drive you to the desire to want to create change?
So basically the tool, I guess what you're saying, is finding your why of why you really want to do it and using that to fuel you?
Yeah, we definitely start there. Okay. I think that people have to understand why they're wanting to make change, but also I think that a lot of people think change is very temporary. And so instantly, like if I told you for the next 12 weeks you can't have XYZ food, right? Whatever your favorite food is, what's going to happen right away? You're going to want that food so badly, right?
Right.
So instead of that, like we have to remove restriction and we have to figure out, well, what are your non-negotiables? And one of the things I always talk about is, well, do you want date night? Do you want family night? So for me, I've got 4 kids in the house now. When they're eating pizza on a Friday night, if I can't have pizza with them, like I'm going to be a really pissed off dad. That's not okay for my kids to see dad really upset because he can't eat pizza. Like that's setting them up for a very long, life of kind of mixed thoughts, right? They're not going to know what to think. And it may not be overly negative, but they're not going to know what to think about that. So we have to build sustainability. We have to build something that people can move forward with. And ultimately, that should lead us to success.
So you've been on the cover of magazines, right?
I have.
How did that affect your mindset, or did it affect your mindset at all?
So it's really interesting. You would think, when you get in the fitness industry, it's like the pinnacle of physique stuff. As a male, it's like, oh, I want the cover of Muscle and Fitness. And so I chased it, finally got it. And it was super cool, for sure. Once I achieved that, you kind of get in this culture where you have to be open to shooting all the time. And to be completely honest, it sent me back towards anorexia. And honestly, the mindset thing we were just talking about. So I had built a lifestyle where I was living very lean. Like I felt like I had a physique that was above average, probably better than 99% of people in the world. I had abs visibly all the time. I felt good. I looked good. Like life was very good. Right. But then I would get a call to do a shoot and they'd be like, hey, can you be ready in 6 days? And I'd be like, sure, whatever, I need to diet. And I used that word in my head. I was like, I'm gonna diet. For whatever reason, nothing had changed. I hadn't removed any food. I hadn't changed any water or salt or however we were, peaking. And just that mindset of shifting to now I'm in a diet, I was instantly fatigued. Like instantly, like you would look at me and be like, what the hell's wrong with you? And I would be like, oh, I'm dieting, right? Like that word, it had such bad connotation. And I just felt myself slipping back into really bad habits, avoiding social situations with friends where food was gonna be involved. Doing things that I had built as better habits and moving myself forward that I was now no longer doing. And so I really had to remove myself completely from that culture.
Yeah, the older that I get, I notice, stress, negative thoughts, like they have such an effect on your body. It's insane.
More than anyone realizes.
Really?
I would argue that really what goes into physique transformation, body transformation, everybody thinks it's, well, what are you doing in the gym? It's actually, what are you doing the 23 hours a day that you're not in the gym?
Right.
And that has so much more of an impact. And really like what's happening in your head space, what's happening in your personal space. And we live in Western culture where stressors right now are at an all-time high. We over-caffeinate, we undersleep, we overwork, we overstress. All of those things are stressors, right? And the fundamental of change physically is stress and adaptation. So when you go to the gym, you're actually intentionally imposing a stressor and you want a subsequent adaptation, be it fat loss, be it muscle gain, be it strength gain, capacity, right, performance, whatever it might be. Well, the same goes when you're in a calorie deficit. You're intentionally putting yourself in a calorie deficit so that the adaptation is fat loss. You want your body to use fat as fuel, right? You burn that fat off, you end up with a leaner physique. That's beautiful. Unfortunately, if the stressors are too high, we send our body into survival mode. Well, survival mode, because we're physical beings meant to survive and to thrive, not to look like we have six-pack abs. That's not what we were put on this earth to do. So our survival mode is, well, shit, I gotta hold on to body fat. Right? I have to hold on to body fat because that's what's going to insulate my organs. That's what's going to give me energy for months, years to come. And so we can't put ourselves in a too much of a stress position where stressors are super high without adaptation. And so that's why low calorie diets don't work. That's why excessive exercise doesn't work. And that's why external stressors are killing people that are trying to lose body fat.
Now, talking about calories and fats and things like that, is everybody the same? Or do some people, obviously everyone's not the same, but when it comes to nutrition, I mean, I think a lot of people think it's a blanket answer. So like, is it better for some people to have, higher carbs, lower fats, and then maybe for other people, higher fats, lower carbs?
Yeah, so tactically speaking, the answer is it doesn't matter. But the truth is, the first thing everybody that's watching this needs to understand is they are an individual. They have an individual set of requirements and an individual, set of calories and macronutrients that is going to move them forward optimally. That being said, if we were to dig in and you're sitting here and you're like, what is best for me to lose body fat? Science is super clear on this and says as long as calories are controlled, as long as protein is controlled, then the ratio of carbs to fats will not matter. You will get the same rate of fat loss. So what I would ask you is, do you like more carbs or do you like more fats? And let's go back into your dietary history. What have you performed better on? What have you felt better on? Like, do you have more cognitive function when you have low carbs, high fats, which a lot of people do? Like we tend to think low carbs equals low energy. We're actually starting to see low carbs, high fats equals high mental output. So are you in a position where your mental output needs to be high? Or are you doing like day labor work, like doing construction work where you need more carbohydrate? You need that physical energy expenditure. So it's really gonna come down to who are you, the individual. But again, go back, let's keep calories where they need to be. Let's keep protein where it needs to be. And then we'll just figure out the carbs and fats. It's really that simple.
And now, piggybacking off of that, you talk about biofeedback. So this is how people feel, right?
Yes.
So how they sleep, the energy that they have throughout the day. Can you kind of explain biofeedback a little more?
Yeah, so biofeedback is my preferred method of monitoring progress. So I think a lot of people get, the name of this, the scale, right? Like a lot of people get hung up on the scale. They're like, oh my gosh, the scale went up a pound, the world is over. And I ask people all the time in my seminars, if I could snap my fingers tomorrow and have you look in the mirror and see exactly what you want to see, would you be happy? And the answer is always yes. If I could snap my fingers tomorrow, have you see what you want to see in the mirror, then you get on the scale and it's actually 2 pounds higher today than it was yesterday. Are you as happy? And everyone's like, no, that freaks me out. And it's amazing what our attachment to that number on the scale is.
It really is.
So if I start seeing too much of an attachment as a coach, right, and this goes back to the whole thing we started talking about at the beginning, as a nutritional coach, I have to recognize that the scale number is actually sabotaging behaviors. If I finally convinced you that you need to eat more for fat loss, yet the scale number goes up a little bit, it sabotages the new behavior that we've put in. I need to eliminate that saboteur. So we pull out the scale and now I get you looking into biofeedback. Well, has your sleep quality improved? Oh, it has. Great. You wake up feeling better. Oh, are you a little more hungry after meals or between meals? Oh, you are. Great. Your metabolism is working. Do you have more energy throughout the day? Is your sex drive higher? Do you have more focus? Are your relationships better? Is your mood better? Those are all things that go back to internal physiology that gets better because of implementing a successful dietary protocol.
Thank you for explaining that. I know you also
Absolutely.
have a book called Macros Explained.
Yes.
So where can our listeners get that if they wanted to?
Yeah, so they can definitely, they can check us out, in3nutrition.com in the shop section. We actually have 2 books out right now. The first one is Macros Explained. That's the foundation of all things macronutrients, understanding how to implement dietarily. Number 2 is the reverse dieting book. I think a lot of people are going to be really interested in that because unfortunately in Western culture right now, most people are underfed, overstressed, exactly like we talked about. This book teaches you how to successfully come out of that, to strategically put calories back into your diet, get you to an adequate place, but still see the fat loss results that you're looking for. So again, that's in3nutrition.com. And, if you have any questions, there's a contact form, fill them out, hit me up. Would love to talk to anyone out there that has questions. Would love to connect with people. It's just my passion. It's what I do.
Yeah, I mean, not only the books, you also have your coaching program for nutrition, mindset, all of that. So, I mean, what keeps you going? What keeps the drive going for you?
So I always say I'm chasing impact goals. Right?
Okay.
At the end of the day, my goal is to leave an impact on this world. I think that if I've done my job properly, we live in a world where we live in a world of repair, not optimization. So I think that the dietary protocols of the last 10, 15 years are very flawed. I think that there's a lot of issues, like, there was quality focus over quantity, leaving metabolic adaptation, there was low fat, there was low carb, and we weren't really applying them to the individual. We were trying to cast one blanket template on the whole world. I believe because of that, we're having to repair a lot of damage that was done. If in 20 to 30 years as a thought leader in the industry, if we are living in a world of optimization instead of a world of repair, where now like the status quo is much better and we can optimize individuals, I will have done my job very well. And so that means helping individuals one-on-one like my staff does. That means creating an education center for coaches to get the proper education to go out and help their clients like we're currently doing with Nutritional Coaching Institute. Whatever it is, if I can see someone on the street and I can move them forward, just one thing, like if we're in the line at Chipotle together and I can educate you and like just move you forward a little bit, like that's amazing. And honestly, it's something that it saved me. I was really in a bad place as an anorexic, doubt, depression, even, at one point in my life contemplated suicide.
Oh,
it was a very low place for me. If I can move you forward at all, if I can be a catalyst for change and positivity and impact in your life, that's all I need. Really, like at the end of the day, that's all I need.
In your opinion, what is the biggest health misconception out there right now?
Oh man, that there's one solution for everybody.
Okay.
I think that like everyone always asks me, where do you start with diet or fitness? And my answer, it probably shocks a lot of people. I say self-awareness. Like, what do you actually want? Because if I told you that you want 6-pack abs, right? But if I told you that 6-pack abs comes with a calorie deficit, and especially for a female to get super lean, like we're talking 12% body fat to visibly see abs, you're going to be tired, you're going to be a little moody, and your performance in the gym isn't going to be great. Now, do you actually want that?
No.
No, you don't. Okay,
feel
so what do
good.
you really want, right? Like you want a lifestyle of enjoying the way that you look, but also being able to live the way you want to live. So we need to actually reverse engineer the conversation. Let's start with what you actually want. Let's talk to you about what that entails, and let's implement that way. I think so many people are pigeonholing themselves. They're jailing themselves to these protocols that are so restrictive in nature that yes, maybe you can implement for 12 weeks. Maybe you can see success for 12 weeks. Yet all that happens at the end of 12 weeks is you want to break free from that, and you go so much further in the other direction that you end up in a worse position. And I know every single person that just saw this was like, oh my gosh, I've done that. Because I've done it, right? Like the truth is, like we've all been there. We need to find something that you can sustain and that can be successful, that actually gives you a better lifestyle. Let's be honest, looking in the mirror and having six-pack abs, but being so miserable that you can't even enjoy them. Like you can't even go to the beach and take your shirt off because you hate your life, and you're afraid that if, God forbid, you consume like, I don't know, whatever they're serving at the beach instead of your asparagus, like that sucks.
Yeah.
That is not a way to live. Like, we have to get people out of that mentality.
Yeah, get people to live that balanced lifestyle. That's what it's all
100%.
about. So let's say, there's someone that is struggling with an eating disorder. Where can they go to find help?
To be fair, right? Like I would love to be like, they can come to me and we can have a conversation. Now, I definitely believe you need a social support system.
Okay.
And there's some amazing individuals in this world that are doing that. And we have a mindset coach, it's a clinical counselor on our team for that reason, because we recognize there's a massive mental component. However, if you're clinically eating disordered, you need to go to a registered dietitian, you need to go to a psychologist. That's just factual, right? I would love to be like, hey, I can help you. I can probably empathize with you, and I would love to be your friend through the treatment process of being with an RD and of being with a counselor. But I cannot be the person that is responsible for your protocol.
Thank you for sharing that.
It's just, yeah, I mean, I would love to be like, definitely come to me, but unfortunately, we have to abide by what's right in the country, and we have to we have to do what's right for the clientele. And I think that we as coaches have to understand our boundaries as well. But again, I think that understanding you can still be social support while getting them the proper help is massively critical.
And that's why I think you're such a great coach and why you're affecting so many people out there, is because you are so transparent, honest with people, and it's just, trying to let everyone live the best version of themselves.
That's it. I think we have to really empower people to create their own change.
How does fitness affect mental health?
Oh man, there's so many ways. I mean, I think if, number one, mentally, enjoying how you look and how you feel, right? That's clearly going to change your mindset. But I mean, there's so much research coming out now with different dietary protocols. Unfortunately, we're getting back to where we were 10 years ago. And so we're seeing things like, okay, the ketogenic diet is really good for cognitive function. Can't dispute that. It's factual. Research has proved it. However, people in very high-end athletic endeavors are saying, oh, well, the ketogenic diet is great for cognitive function. I'm going to implement the ketogenic diet. What they're not aware is that the ketogenic diet in an athletic setting actually hurts cognitive function long-term and destroys hormone levels. So again, there's definitely an interplay. But I think as a coach, I have to be like, okay, I need you to see the whole picture. Don't just listen to one piece of research and think, oh my gosh, that's the holy grail. I need to paint the whole picture for you. But proper nutritional protocols, obviously reducing inflammation. We're seeing inflammation being big in brain function, being big in longevity. Certain micronutrient levels like Max Lagarve, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, just talked about brain-focused foods. Like there's so much research coming out that certain micronutrients are really good for physical and cognitive function. I love where we're going with research. Unfortunately, just being able to kind of read the tea leaves, see where we've been. I know that research comes out, we create blanket applications. I'm hoping that the researchers of the next decade come out and be like, okay, this is what we found. Here's the really specific application. Please don't cast this net over the whole world. But let's be real, there's marketers out there that will take that, they'll use it, and that's what a company like ours and people that are trying to do coaching, we're always gonna try to defeat that, and we're always gonna be battling that. But at the end of the day, we're here, and we're here to support and serve the right way.
Like I said, we're so thankful for that, and for you and your whole entire team.
We appreciate it, we appreciate it.
Now, let's say there's someone at home that, has been eating unhealthy for a long time now. Maybe the whole macro counting and all of that is too intimidating for them right now. What are the first steps they can take in regards to nutrition?
So I have this philosophy, I call it my one thing philosophy.
Okay.
And I believe that change starts with changing one thing. And if you can literally identify everything you're doing, and let's just say you can cut out soda. Cool, cut out soda. Yet you're still eating McDonald's. Dope, dude. Go still eat McDonald's. I have no issues with it. Because if you cut out soda, I promise you, just cutting out those calories and that sugar, you're gonna drop some weight. Now, if you see the scale move positively, or you feel better because your insulin's not all over the place from the soda, guess what you might be willing to do next week? You might be willing to give up the McDonald's, right? Now, great, we've identified that. We've changed the second habit. So I think that when we look at nutritional prescription, macros are definitely like the pinnacle. I talk about it being a mountain, right? Well, to get to the pinnacle, you have to climb your way up, and you also have to climb your way back down, because nobody stays at the pinnacle of a mountain forever.
Right.
So with the way we look at macro counting and macro prescription is we have to work people up to it. Now, some people are entering the mountain right here. Like the beginning of their climb is super quick, and then we get them to macros very quickly. But there's some people like the person you just talked about that's super intimidated. They've never done any dietary research in their life. They have to start down here. And that might mean cutting out soda, cutting out McDonald's, actually eating a vegetable, right? Whatever it might be, to get them to that, right? Because now all of a sudden we've created momentum, we've created success. Momentum is so powerful for individuals. You get momentum moving in the right direction, and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to, I have to do this. So, all right, let's try that macro counting thing.
Now, when you have a client that you're working with that, is on their way up to the macro counting, and let's say they are finding themselves in a slump.
Yep.
How do you try to motivate them to keep going, to not give up that?
I think that you have to understand why, where the slump is coming from.
Okay.
So is it because the scale's not moving? Is it because their appearance isn't changing? Is it because they don't like the implementation of their life? Where's the slump coming from? And that's the first thing. And again, that's coaching, right? That has nothing to do with numerical values. It has nothing to do with plateaus. It's why are you in the slump? Once we know that, well, it's super easy to fix. Oh, you don't like counting macros? Cool, let's build you a plan where you don't have to count macros. Oh, you need a date night? Cool, let's implement a date night. Whatever it might be. Oh, it is the plateau? Okay, cool, let's bust the plateau. But whatever it is that's causing that, I just think people assume slumps are very general all the way across the board, and they're not.
So when you're working with clients, do you recommend that they surround themselves with positive people? I mean, obviously your coaches and your team are positive people for them,
Sure.
but do you also coach them, to surround themselves with a support system?
I do. I mean, you can't change somebody's friends, right? And you can't change how their family is going to perceive things. But I definitely think that one thing a lot of dieters like to do is they think it's like a shameful process. And I really don't understand why somebody that's trying to create positive change physically, mentally, and be a better person for themselves. And we know when you're really positive for yourself, you can now go out and be positive for others. I don't understand why that's a shameful thing. So I actually encourage my clients to talk about their process, to educate others. And so when you go to dinner and it's like, hey guys, like I'm not gonna drink, let's just put it out there in case like when the waiter comes and it's like, oh, you're gonna have a glass of wine and you're gonna have a beer. Oh, and I'm gonna have water. Oh my gosh, I'm not drinking, like the world's ending.
Right.
And you know your friends are gonna give you crap for it and they're gonna be like, how come you're not drinking? Instead of getting to that point where it's super awkward, just sit down and be like, hey guys, I'm gonna have water tonight. By the way, I am taking charge of my health. I wanna feel better. I wanna look better. And so this is what I'm doing. Just wanted to, give you the heads up when they ask for drinks. I think if you beat them to the punch and you openly talk about it, now, we don't want to go to the to the end of that spectrum where you're like the person that only talks about dieting and how you're like, oh my God, guys, I'm eating the salad. You're the fat ass eating the pizza.
Yeah.
Like that's not cool. But you definitely need to be excited about what you're doing. You need to own that. You need to champion your cause. I think it's something that so few people, when they undertake a protocol, it's like they're ashamed of it. I don't know why you would keep it a secret.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, it's like keeping up with the Joneses, got to do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, bro, I'm on my macros. And it's like, you see their Instagram story and it's like, blah, blah, blah. This is how many macros. Like, you don't got to take it that far. And to be fair, I actually think that's a problem. I think that people become so obsessed with what they're doing. They're like, oh, look at the macros in this. It's like, great, dude, I don't care. Like, that's part of your lifestyle. If you have to point out to somebody that every single meal you have, you're counting your macros, like, that's not really part of your lifestyle. Like, to me, that seems very forced.
Yeah.
We sat down at breakfast this morning. I do count my macros. We're getting ready for a very big project internally. And I had like eggs and bacon because I knew I needed like a protein and fat source this morning. Do I know exactly how much? No. But I also didn't point out to everyone around me, guys, I can't measure this. Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. I didn't put it on Instagram. Like, you can definitely tell when it's bordering on an obsession. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who's eating disordered, I know where that goes. It's never positive. We have to fit this in, and it's the theme of the whole thing I've been talking about today. We have to fit this into a lifestyle.
Yeah, totally. Got to make it flow.
It has to be sustainable. Like, if you're on vacation and the biggest issue you have is how you're going to handle your macros, that's a problem.
Yeah.
If the diet you're on does not allow for you to go on vacation and to completely detach from food and emotion around food, that's a problem. And I think so many people are like, oh my gosh, vacation's coming up. I got to diet for it. And then they diet and they're like, well, I'm going to blow it off the rails and I'm going to drink my face off and I'm going to eat everything in sight. And then they come home and they're super miserable. It's like, no, like your diet should have set you up to be successful with that.
Yeah.
So, and that's something I see so frequently.
Yeah, me too. So I know you kind of mentioned it earlier, but what does living beyond the scale mean to you?
So we talk about starting with self-awareness. Mm-hmm. I think it's continued self-awareness. It's understanding the whole person, the whole vision of who you are, who you want to become, how you want to impact others, how you want to impact this world. I like to think that every single person in this world has something to give. Whether or not you're aware of it is a completely different story, but we all have something to give. We all have positivity to pay it forward, and we all have someone that's watching us. Whether or not we know it, our kids, our friends, our social circle is watching us, and sometimes they need our inspiration. So if you're allowing one number every single day to dictate who you are, it's not going to work. I also think that those of us that are leading the nutritional industry now, we have to get people to understand you're so much more than a physical being. You're not just the number on the scale and the image in the mirror. You are a brother, you are a sister, you're a father, you're a daughter, you're a husband, whatever it might be, you are that person. And that is so much more than any physical definition. I think we need to start thinking outside the box. We need to understand that, I'm Jason Phillips. I am a father to 4 amazing kids. I'm a husband to my beautiful wife. I'm a son to my amazing parents. I'm a CEO to 2 amazing companies, right? These are roles that I need to fulfill every day. And if I let that number in the morning dictate how I act within those roles throughout the day, I am doing all of those people a disservice. So to everybody that watches this, they're like, oh my gosh, how is that number changing my headspace going into the day? Screw that number. Go into the day and be the best wife, be the best mother. And then I guarantee when you're doing those things, when you're living positively in those things, all of a sudden the number takes care of itself. Because let's be real, eating junk food with your kids, not being the best mother. Maximize all the other actions. The scale takes care of itself.
That was so beautifully and powerfully said. Thank you for that, Jason.
Absolutely.
For our listeners out there that want to get involved in any of your programs, where can they go?
Yeah, so if you want to coach with us, it's in3nutrition.com. There's a coaching application there. We talked about the books earlier. If you're interested in any of our products, please feel free to grab those, hit me up if you have any questions about them. But for those of you guys that are out there that want to be educators, that want to do what we do, that want to start paying it forward, we also own the Nutritional Coaching Institute, and that would be found at NCIcertifications with an S.com. Or they can hit me up on social media. I'm really easy to find, Jason Phillips on Facebook, Jason Phillips _IN3 on Instagram. I make a commitment to anybody that's ever seen me or heard me on a podcast. I will personally correspond with you if you reach out to me. I love hearing from you. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your issues. I want to know if this podcast moves you forward. But this is a passion project for me. So if you can reach out and we can connect, I would be incredibly humbled and honored to do whatever I can for you.
And for those of you that are ready to get started on your fitness journey, make sure you check out fitbodybootcamp.com to claim your 3 free workouts. Thank you again, Jason. It was such a pleasure having you on the show, and I hope we can have you again in the future.
Truly my honor. You know that I'm here for you guys whenever you want it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Did you know that you could have done a full workout in the amount of time it took you to listen to this podcast? Go to fitbodybootcamp.com to claim your 3 free sessions now. And remember to join me next Tuesday so you can see who our special guest is. Until then, remember to live a fit body, fit mind forever.